Hey, welcome back to the Ernest P YouTube channel. I'm Ernest. Today we're going to be looking at how to replace the wheel bearing on your vehicle. We just took the tire off and got it jacked up here safely. That's the first steps. Obviously we don't need to cover that, but here we're at the rotor and the brake caliper. So we're going to go ahead and take the brake caliper off. There's usually 2 bolts on the back that hold that on. We'll just take the whole brake caliper itself off and we'll put it up here out of the way. So we'll check in once we get that done. All right, so we've got that caliper set up out of the way up here on top of that dust cover, and this rotor should now be free to come off. It's a little warm. All right, now here is the wheel bearing itself. It connects right here. Let's see if we can get a better height on that. You can see there's a bolt right here. There's 4 of those. So what we're gonna have to do is take this axle loose. To do that, we'll use an axle nut on this and an impact to take that off. We'll push this axle out of the way a bit, and then that'll give us enough room to take the bolts off the back side here, which you can probably see like that. I'll put my shadow on it. So those 4 bolts, you should be able to access them pretty easily. If not, just push that axle out of the way. You could even undo these 2 bolts here on the strut or shock and move this whole control arm and steering knuckle down out of the way to get yourself more room. But on this one, we should have enough room. So we'll undo those 4 bolts and check back in once we undo this axle nut. All right, obviously you could use a breaker bar here if you needed to, but obviously that impact makes it a lot quicker. You can see here this axle is already loose. That's nice. If it's not, you can put this nut back on it. This is a 30 millimeter, for instance, but you know, it could be anywhere from a 30, from like a 29 up to a 39 typically. You can put this nut back on it pretty flush right here. Then what you can do is you put your socket back on there and then you smack on that with a hammer. Second case scenario would be to just flush these up right here and hit this nut with a sledgehammer or a little, you know, 3-pound hammer, and try and loosen that up. But you don't want to hit the stud itself right here, the open face here of this axle, because you can mushroom those threads and then you won't be able to put your nut back on and tighten everything down when you're done. But again, this one luckily was pretty loose already. I didn't even have to hit on it. But if you do, try and just put that socket back on that nut and hit it to loosen everything up. If you need to make room. On this one we might not need to, but obviously a little bit extra room never hurt anybody. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and just take off these 4 bolts, and this wheel bearing should just come right off. Okay, again, to make yourself enough room, you can just push back on this axle here. There it goes, loosen up. That'll give yourself enough room to work this wrench back here. Perfect, rinse and repeat for all 4. Okay, now usually these are rusted on a little bit, so just give it a tap with your hammer. Just work your way around it like that. Just keep tapping it and it will come loose. So yeah, we'll check back in, just tap around the sides like this. All right, so with a little bit of persuasion, that old one came out. As you can see, just a good little bit of rust around there. But the new one is set up in its place. Just made sure it lined up, and you can see there's still a gap there, but it presses in real easy as long as it's not, you know, rusty, which it's not, it's new. So we'll go ahead and put these bolts back in, all 4 before we tighten them down, and then we'll tighten them down in a crisscross pattern. Then we'll check back in once we get that done. But it's pretty simple. I'm going to push this axle out of the way, get those bolts in there, so I get enough room in the back. And yeah, they've got to go down probably about 30 foot-pounds, 28 if I had to guess. But you know, check the specs on your specific vehicle. But yeah, we'll check back in. All right, now that's on. It's all bolted nice and tight. Just make sure everything lines up, make sure this axle lines up and those splines are in correctly. You probably wouldn't have been able to put it on if not, but just in case, double check everything. Now put this axle nut back on. Just check the torque specs for your vehicle, but yeah, 97 foot-pounds is what it looks like it is due here. So we'll use a torque wrench and torque that down, and we'll check back in when we're putting that caliper back on. But other than that, I mean, this goes on, caliper goes back on, the rotor, everything, and the tire. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, leave them down below. This is the Ernest P YouTube channel. Thanks again. As always, have a good day and peace out. And we'll just cover those last 2 things, but if you want to peace out here, I gotcha. All right, that rotor's back on, it decides on. Now we're gonna take this caliper. We made sure the brake pads are in there right, and we're just gonna put that back on. 2 bolts on the back of that caliper. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that caliper's on. I'm gonna tighten those bolts down. They're right here, one on top, one on bottom. You know, I do them to feel. They're nice and tight, probably 45 foot-pounds, I'd say. They're usually pretty rusty. So, all right, that's it, folks. All I gotta do left is put on the tire and drop her down. So, thanks for watching. Peace out.